The predictions on this video were filmed on Sunday, October 4th. All information held herein is as accurate as of that date.
From the pages of the World Wrestling Federation magazine, here's updates.
Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. I am here with other Kyle, my brother from Jacob, and somebody's mother.
Yeah.
WWE's doing a draft this week.
Yes, they are. Starting next week on October 9th on SmackDown, I think.
Now, usually these drafts are pointless. They don't mean anything. Because they change the rules whenever they feel like changing the rules, and then there's wild card rules and all this other stuff. I'm not sure how true to life that'll be this year. I think it'll still be the same. But in the spirit of who knows what's going to happen in 2020, we decided we're going to do some predictions on what WWE will do with their draft. Now, I guess the same rules would apply here as would in their draft, right? Like, well, because they change the rules of their draft every year too, right? Sometimes they tag teams. Sometimes tag teams count as one draft pick.
Sometimes they have like two different draft pools for each day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the rules for the draft are like the rules for virtually everything else WWE does. Yeah. It changes whenever they feel like it changes. Whenever they feel like making the changes. Like, Royal Rumble, some years is 30 seconds in between entrance. Some years is 2 minutes. So it all changes. Some cage matches are pinfall only. Some matches are escape only. It all changes. This year, we're going to go by, I guess, we got to figure out some rules. So do tag teams count as one draft pick, the whole tag team, or are we splitting up tag teams this year?
I think it's possible to do both. I could totally see them going just like picking one team, but also like maybe splitting another. But I don't think they're going to split up any tag teams because they've already split up every single tag team that they practically have.
That doesn't mean anything. WWE hates tag teams. WWE hates tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
So first prediction? What's your prediction on what that's going to do? Are they going to are tag teams going to go as individual teams? Like, does all the New Day go over to one section, or do you split up teams by sending one member to one show and another member to another show?
I think with the consistent tag teams like Street Profits and Lucha House Party and stuff, I think they're going to keep those type of teams together. But the New Day, I feel like it's a whole different story. Only because I think they were actually considering, at one point, putting Kofi Kingston, like trading him to Raw.
Mm-hmm.
They were considering that and having Xavier Woods almost like manage them on both sides. So that's a bit more of an interesting. I could see them possibly doing that.
All right, let's start at the start here and take it away, Kyle. Who do you think will be the first pick for Monday Night Raw?
The first pick for Monday Night Raw is probably going to be Drew McIntyre, just like champions overall. I'd see him as the first pick. But if we just counted those,
no, I think include champions. Because they've done that in years past. I think include champions.
Then I'll stick with Drew McIntyre.
You'll stick with Drew McIntyre.
Most likely.
Okay. I actually am going to go the opposite way, and I'm going to say Roman Reigns goes over to Monday Night Raw.
Really?
And this stems from a conversation I had with other Kyle, with Trapzilla the other day. When we were talking about Roman Reigns as champion and his heel turn now on SmackDown and how good that is and how amazing that is. Looking at the division, Who does he have on SmackDown? You still there? There you go. Who does he have on SmackDown to be his next opponent? Let's say they continue the Jey Uso thing for another month into Hell in a Cell, which is a stupid pay-per-view, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then Survivor Series is they continue with Survivor Series and do the champion versus champion thing as opposed to having it continue storylines, show versus show. Okay. Leading into December, which is usually a down period in terms of creative for WWE anyway, who does he have? The Fiend again? Braun Strowman again?
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan? Although Daniel Bryan is he officially a face now? Is he a face or is he a heel?
He's definitely a face now.
He's a face now. So does
he
beat up Daniel Bryan? And then again, who then? Who does he have? I'm looking at I printed out or wrote down who they have on the roster. There's nobody else. Like he'd have to go back to beating Braun Strowman and the Fiend again. And competing against them again, unless they do AJ Styles, since he didn't win the IC championship.
Yeah.
But that roster is pretty thin for Roman to play with. I think he's got more to work with and at least refresh a little bit on Raw for the most part. But again, that roster's kind of thin too, but at least gives him something else to do.
That's interesting.
And keeps him away from the Fiend.
See, I personally believe they're gonna do a Fiend Roman match again. I think because they haven't even had the chance to do it at WrestleMania. I think they want to do it, and there are all those reports going around that they might be trying to have the Fiend as a babyface. I'm not sure how that's gonna work, but I don't know. I see him sticking around. I also see them. I think they're going to continue the Jey Uso feud as well.
Because I think they are because they don't have anything else to do at the moment.
Yeah.
But I don't see my whole thing with the Fiend is different than other people's. I don't think the Fiend should be champion. I don't think the Fiend should ever have been champion. I think he should have been this amorphous thing on his own that didn't need or want the championship. Kind of like The Undertaker was for all those years as he was building up his mystique. Now, mind you, Undertaker had the championship for like a week earlier, but in his career, but you didn't associate the championship with The Undertaker. He was just The Undertaker. That's the same thing. You shouldn't associate the Fiend with the championship because then you run into the issue of how do you beat him? And they've misbooked him so much, especially around championships. I think you keep him away from that. I think Roman goes to Raw. What's your first pick for SmackDown?
SmackDown would be Roman.
Okay.
Drew McIntyre stays on Raw. Roman stays on SmackDown. I think that's kind of what their plan is there. Just the base start for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if that means you think Roman's going to Raw, that means you think Drew's going to go to SmackDown?
I think there's any number of ways they could do it. They could do it where both champions are on one show for a period of time, which they've done in the past. But they could all. But here's the other. Wait, who's in charge of these shows?
I think it's a. See, I don't even get it either. I think it's.
Are there general managers? Who's in charge of these shows?
I think it's that. Have you seen Adam Pearce?
Adam Pearce is the go-between for some people. By the way, this is the best Adam Pearce has ever looked in his entire career. I don't know if it's catering just has lean meat now, or he's taken full advantage of the weights in the performance center. But this is the best he's looked in his entire career physically. And also maybe he's just because he's not working anymore. But this is the best he's looked in his entire career. But he's not really an authority figure. He's the gopher.
That's the thing. They haven't said he's an authority figure yet. He kind of just snuck in, and he was just in like one scene, maybe two scenes, and now he's suddenly making all these decisions, and they have yet to acknowledge that he's even a general manager.
But I was going to say, who are the authority figures on this show? We know William Regal on NXT.
Remember, Brent, the main roster doesn't have authority figures anymore.
Well, that would have been fine, except you're still doing a draft. So who's making these decisions? Like, it's
I think last year they said it was like the network executives.
Oh, that's right. They did say the network executives. Okay. That's right. They did say that. And partially because it was true. Because Fox, I believe, did in fact want bigger names on SmackDown since they were going to be. So they kind of did the, okay. So network executives. Okay. So
they wanted Brock on SmackDown, and then he moved to Raw a month later.
Right.
Sorry, Fox.
So I think and that leads to another thing. I think SmackDown could pick Brock. So here's the thing. They could either pick Drew because he's the champion and they need a championship on SmackDown, or they could pick Brock Lesnar because he's the biggest name out there. He's the biggest name. Now, mind you, we haven't seen him in some time, and he probably won't be on the show. Like, even if they do pick him and he does, oh wait, he's not there anymore. His contract quietly expired.
Yeah, his contract quietly expired, but if we're to expect anything, he's probably going to re-sign the second fans are allowed and they can start paying big money.
I gotta take him off the list. He doesn't count anymore. So SmackDown, the only logical thing for SmackDown to do, because there is no other big name on that show that they would pick up in lieu of the champion, is they'd have to pick up Drew McIntyre to switch things up. So SmackDown picks up Drew McIntyre. Now, did WWE say NXT was involved too?
They didn't, but I wonder if there are going to be any NXT talent that gets involved in this draft.
I think it'll probably be a one-way street. NXT's not going to get AJ Styles, for instance.
NXT's not going to get anything, but they're going to take from NXT.
They're going to take from NXT. Yeah, they certainly are. So bring in NXT. Who do you think is going to be SmackDown's? You said SmackDown's choice, Drew McIntyre. Who do you think is going to be Raw's next choice?
Oh man.
Now that we've established that they have SmackDown to choose from as well as NXT, NXT UK, the free agents, and 205 Live.
I'm going to play this safe again. I'm going to go with Edge. I think they're going to keep Edge.
That's safe. Edge is injured right now. We don't know if or when Edge is coming back.
Edge is going to come back probably sometime early next year.
That's your safe bet? That's an interesting safe bet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a safe bet that he's going to stay there. I think also at some point they're going to draft Randy Orton to stay there as well, so they can have their little blow off match when he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I think is going to happen.
I think Monday Night Raw, their next choice is probably actually going to be as much as I don't want to see it, I think we're gearing up for on the main roster, baby. I think we're gearing up for the end of Adam Cole's career by way of terrible booking on the main roster.
I think he's going to be drafted up, but not with the Undisputed Era.
Nope.
Not with.
Nope.
That's the way to just end the group. They just randomly draft him.
Yeah, I think they've been slowly separating them for a while now. Just kind of not separating them, but just not having them be the Undisputed Era for a while now, just very quietly. And I think what we're unfortunately going to see is, since Adam Cole is honestly, especially now with their main project Karrion Kross injured and with Keith Lee already on the main roster, Adam Cole is really the star of that show. They're going to take him and they're going to ruin him. and they're probably going to bury him, but they're going to Monday Night Raw is going to take Adam Cole.
Yeah, the thing is about that is that they have guys that have been there for a long time. Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. They've had guys that have been there and kind of done everything that they can possibly do in NXT. So at some point, it's inevitable they're going to get drafted up.
For the most part, yeah. I think Ciampa's safe. But for the most part,
safe because he doesn't want to go.
He doesn't want to go, and he's older, and he's unfortunately caught the injury bug a couple of times already. So I think they're going to keep him in NXT. If nothing else, is sort of this player coach role that we all heard Cassius Ohno had, but better because he's better than Cassius Ohno.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see Adam Cole on Raw. Who do you think is going to go to SmackDown?
Ooh. Let's see. See, you talking about a big feud for Roman Reigns. How about drafting Keith Lee to SmackDown?
This is another thing I talked about. I haven't seen – the last time I saw Keith Lee wrestle was on the Monday Night Raw after Payback. Payback, he looks good. That Raw, he looked good. Keith Lee, before those two matches, had, unfortunately, a string of matches where he looked like he was winded and tired and blown up very fast, where it looked like his weight finally caught up with him very fast. That could have been any number of things. You know, the world has ended. Maybe he can't get the same cardio in that he used to be able to get in to sustain himself. If you're sitting at home quarantined, you're not even, walking around as much as you used to walk around or driving, just the everyday physical things you used to do. So I think that showed in Keith Lee's performances other than the last two that I've seen him in. I haven't seen anything of him since then. That was a couple of weeks ago. If Keith Lee goes into a program with the Lord God Roman Reigns himself, Vince McMahon's wet dream himself, and he does it, and he looks like anything other than Roman Reigns. Physically, he can't look like Roman Reigns. But if he doesn't look like he can go with Roman, if he doesn't look like he's, in the shape to fight and go and not blown up and all that other stuff, his career is over. His career in WWE is over. Because even if he reasserts himself and gets better and gets his win back and even maybe drops some weight, Vince McMahon will always see him as a fat slob. So I don't want him to be in a program with Roman Reigns yet. That doesn't mean they won't do it. And that also doesn't mean he won't get drafted over to SmackDown.
Well, him being drafted doesn't necessarily mean he has to go into a program at the start.
True, but they are hot-shotting him. They're teasing him getting that upper echelon role.
They're hot-shotting him, but what I don't like what they're doing about him is that they want to put him in the top, but they also don't want to beat him. So for the last month on Raw, he's been in nothing matches that have gone to DQ. I was thinking you would build to a Keith Lee, Drew McIntyre match down the line. But they've already done that match like 3 times now on Raw. And each time they've done it, it's all been DQs. It's been by like Craptribution and everything. I just think putting him on SmackDown where he's not going to be put into the same match every week, where on Raw, everybody is still in the same feuds they were back in May. They're still doing the same matches. If he can get away from Raw and just start doing something a little different, I think that would do wonders for him. Okay.
All right. I don't necessarily disagree with that. In that case, I can agree with you. Maybe Keith Lee goes over to SmackDown on the next Raw. I'm going to make that as my next roster choice. Keith Lee goes over to SmackDown. Hold that thought. Who goes over to Raw?
Let's see. I'm looking at some of the rosters right now. goes over to Raw?
Or stays
I guess,
on Raw?
I guess I already said his name already, so I'll just go with Randy Orton. So I don't think he's leaving Raw.
Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, they're going to continue that feud with Edge. They're going to have one more big blow-off match. They clearly have been building him up for that, and then they kind of blew that all away. So now they're going to probably hold back on him a little bit and then build him up when Edge gets healthy again.
That makes sense. That's a good choice. I can agree with that. I think Randy Orton stays on Raw. I don't think he goes to SmackDown. I don't think there's really any reason for him to go back to SmackDown. He's kind of been associated with SmackDown for long enough at this point in his career. I think Raw is kind of where he stays as well. Who goes over to SmackDown or stays on SmackDown?
How about Andrade and Angel Garza?
Together.
Yes.
Now they don't split up. They don't split that because Garza's out for we don't know how long he's out for.
We don't know how long he's out for. They say it's not a serious injury, so I don't expect him to be out for that long. But I mean, they have to get them off Raw. They've done them to death. They've done them and the Street Profits. I've never seen a match between two tag teams so much in such a short amount of time.
You must be forgetting Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, then, young man, because they used to fight every show.
Hey, I wasn't around for that. This is different though.
Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys fought so much. At one point, they had Edge and Jeff Hardy versus Christian and Matt Hardy just to shake things up.
But how was the feud then? Were they just like, was one side losing all the time, or were they hot-shotting the titles?
It was even, especially after the No Mercy ladder match. They had them on the show facing each other every single show.
Well, then that's the one difference, is that they had an even feud where it was kind of like one team getting over on the other.
And I don't think it was about the titles even. I don't even think they were in the title contention. I think they just had them fight each other every week.
Okay, but this is a feud that's going on for like 5 months. And I don't think Angel Garza and Andrade have even beaten them once in this entire feud. And they've been they've been teasing a split up this entire time. At this point, I don't even think they're going to do it, because they've already practically done a split up and then make up like half a dozen times at this point. And they keep teaming. Zelina Vega's left the group now. So right now they're just in such a bad position. And I feel so bad for Andrade. I feel so bad for Angel Garza. And they need to get away from there. They have had such a horrible run since the COVID era of Raw started.
Okay. All right. I can see that.
I don't think they're going to be the fourth pick or anything, but I just want to get that out of the way.
I see. I think SmackDown then drafts Dominic Dijakovic.
Ooh. You're splitting up Retribution. The amazing group of Retribution.
He's in Retribution?
Yeah.
Is he T-Bar?
He's T-Bar.
Oh, he's T-Bar?
Yeah.
Fuck. I didn't know he was T-Bar. I knew Mia Yim was T-Boz or whatever the hell her stupid name was. I didn't know he was T-Bar.
Do you know
which doesn't make any sense.
Do you know who's in Retribution?
The people have like done the lineups or whatever, but I haven't really been paying attention to any Retribution things that they've done.
Retribution, I mean, it's the worst. It's one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. But the group is 5 people. It's Mercedes Martinez, Mia Yim.
Okay.
And the named ones, T-Bar is Dominic Dijakovic, Mace is Dio Madden, and Slapjack, I just love that name, is Shane Thorne.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So that changes a little bit, because I was thinking they could put Dijakovic with Keith Lee and have them be a tag team.
I know, right?
Because of their history together in NXT and whatever, have to be a tag team, and it can kind of shelter Keith Lee while he's going through his blown up phase. If he's T-Bar, they're not gonna move Retribution over to SmackDown this early.
No.
They're gonna keep them there. They're gonna keep them there. Okay. In that case, I think they're going to. There are a couple of groups that are together. They're not going to split up Retribution, and they're also not going to split up this other team. So I'm going to lump them together in my next few picks. The Hurt Business goes over to SmackDown.
The whole Hurt Business.
The whole Hurt Business goes over to SmackDown.
That's a big grab.
Because they shouldn't. That doesn't mean they won't.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't split them up this early. Consensus is they're the best thing on Raw right now.
I will agree to that. They actually are.
They shouldn't split them up this early. And Roman Reigns is over on Raw now, in my head. So I think the Hurt Business then goes over to SmackDown in the next few picks. And starts causing them some damage. And if they're smart, they then have Shelton and Cedric go for the tag titles. Or Shelton and MVP maybe go for the tag. No, a young guy and an older guy. So Cedric and MVP go for the tag titles.
Yeah.
And then split them off that way. And then that way you can have Shelton go for maybe another singles title. Maybe he takes over the U.S. ranks from Lashley. And then Lashley, then they can elevate him to a main event status on SmackDown and have him maybe go after Drew or whoever other the top faces on SmackDown would be. So, yeah, I think over the next few picks, Hurt Business goes over to SmackDown.
Very interesting. I think next for me would be Raw.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with the entire Mysterio family.
Dominic and Rey,
and you can throw the wife and the daughter in there too, whatever. But essentially, I think they're wherever Rey's gonna go. They
stay on Raw.
Gonna go with him. It would be absolute madness to split them up at this point. So I think Rey and Dominic are going to be on the same brand. I think they're going to stay on Raw. They're going to continue to do good things.
Okay. I think Raw then picks up or keeps I think Raw then picks up Jimmy and Jay.
I think they're going to pick up the Usos. Ooh.
I think they then pick up Jimmy and Jay.
I like that.
Because I think they're going to continue the reluctant even though they're already kind of doing this with the Hurt Business. I think they separate the shows, which they already have, but they separate the shows and they do the reluctant joining with the evil leader. Jay and Jimmy join Roman and form that dynasty, that Samoan dynasty faction that fans have kind of fantasy booked in their head for years. Yeah. I think they do it reluctantly because if not, Roman will beat the shit out of him.
That sounds very right. I mean, if they're going to continue this feud, there has to be somewhere that it's going to go.
I think they continue the feud with them only out of necessity because they booked themselves into a corner because they have the stupid Survivor Series stipulation now where the shows have to compete against each other for no reason whatsoever because there's really no show supremacy. But I think they booked themselves into a corner, at least for the next couple of months. And then at a certain point, they join Roman for complete domination of Raw because I don't see there's not who's going to compete against them, but for complete domination of Raw.
I think that could work really well.
Mm-hmm. Who do you think goes over to SmackDown?
I'd say let's get an NXT guy in here. And you said Adam Cole going to Raw. I think they might do two. And I think there's another guy that needs a call up. Only because he's done everything there and they have nothing left for him to do. I think Johnny Gargano goes to SmackDown.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know, it's a shame.
That's a shame.
But I've been seeing some NXT recently, and he's not the same. They turned him heel, and he's just kind of feuding in the North American title picture for like the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps competing for it seemingly every takeover, but fails to grab it every time. So to me, it just seems like they're putting him in there because they have to, because he's Johnny Gargano. They don't have any ideas for him going forward. I mean, at some point, he's got to get, even if he doesn't want it, he's going to get that call at some point.
Yeah, and he technically got it at some point, but they brought him back, I guess. But yeah, okay. And then I forfeit my SmackDown choice because I put in the Hurt Business a couple times ago. So then Raw. Who goes over to Raw next?
I'll steal what you said earlier. I'll go with Adam Cole to Raw. I think it's going to be Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, and I think there's going to be a huge change in the tide in NXT because they seem to be doing that for this takeover. With the fact that Kyle O'Reilly's competing in the main event, it seems like they're getting ready for like a bunch of new faces, a bunch of new challengers, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Cameron Grimes, Kushida. And
see, I think NXT is getting ready to call up some of their Performance Center recruits too. I think this year we're going to see probably The Rock's daughter and some of the other Performance Center people actually on NXT.
We're not actually gonna see her yet, only because I think she hurt herself.
I think at some point this year, like even if it's near the end of the year, I think she's gonna. How do you remember how seriously she hurt herself or like what it was?
I think it was like I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a torn something. So that's usually not good.
Usually not good, but it also depends on what it is. So we might see her later on. Okay, that's your Raw. My Raw, I think we're going to see Naomi go to Raw to help complete that Samoan faction gimmick.
Oh, you think they're throwing her into that storyline?
They have to. She's married to the family. They have to.
Yeah,
so one way or the other. So whether she is also reluctant and is like, don't you dare or whatever, or maybe she comes out if Roman punishes her husband, maybe punishes Jimmy instead, right? And she plays the Adrian and Rocky role and, or whatever, or if she just joins along with them because she has to join along with them, whatever, she's going with that story, I think.
Makes a lot of sense. That makes sense, yeah. I think that would be really cool to bring her into it too.
I think we see Naomi. What SmackDown? Your SmackDown choice.
See, I think this is. You said originally, before you found out he was T-Bar, you wanted Dijakovic because he could pair up with Keith Lee, and they could be a good tag team.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had an idea that you keep Matt Riddle on SmackDown, and they were already established as good friends back in NXT. Why not make them a tag team? Why not make Matt Riddle and Keith Lee a big tag team? You could have Matt Riddle be kind of, the goofy, high Matt Riddle that he is. And he would kind of take over like most of the wrestling, and Keith Lee would be there to do all the high spots.
Okay.
And then you could build him up through that.
All right. That's not a terrible choice. And you also have the option of if and when that team splits, he can go for one of the lower singles titles there.
Yeah.
Okay. I again forfeit my SmackDown because I built I sent all the Hurt Business over there. Raw. Who goes over to Raw?
All right. At this point, I probably need a female wrestler, so I'm gonna pick Asuka because she's already the Raw Women's Champion. So, seems weird that they would switch her over to SmackDown if she still held the Raw belt.
Makes sense. I think Raw then picks up. They might try to go for another NXT person, but I don't think they will. I think WWE has been trying to do this for a long time, and they've been fighting it every step of the way. But I think with injuries and everything, they finally actually do this, but not in a contentious or completely breaking like just nobody turn on anybody, but they actually do this. I think Raw sends Big E over.
Ooh, just Big E on his own.
Just Big E on his own, at least for now, because Kofi and Xavier are both hurt. I think they send Big E over there, and you don't know if that means it's the end of the New Day, at least to start, because you don't hear anything about Kofi or Xavier because they're both hurt. I think Big E goes over to Raw, and I think that may be the next evolution of him figuring himself out away from throwing pancakes and being a clown.
Yeah, I definitely get that too. He does need a bit of that next serious phase of him.
Mm-hmm.
In order, if they want to, people want a fantasy book Big E versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. He needs to do some work to get there.
Mm-hmm.
He can't just fly right in right now. They have this. I'll give him this. They have the groundwork there. They've been giving him. They've been booking him well as a singles guy. They've been giving him pay-per-view wins in long, really good matches. They have the groundwork. They just need to take that to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who do you think goes over to SmackDown next?
SmackDown. Well, the show with the best ratings, supposedly. You can't have a show like that without the Queen on it. So Charlotte Flair.
Okay, that's a good transfer in my opinion. That's a good transfer.
Yeah, they're gonna bring her back around Royal Rumble. Probably make her have her win the Royal Rumble again, or do something along those lines.
That's a good transfer, and I think this is the last time I get to wave SmackDown for the Hurt Business. Raw. Who goes over to Raw?
Let's see. I'm gonna look at SmackDown because I want to see if there's any SmackDown guys that can move over.
You haven't said an NXT name in a while either.
No, I have not.
No, neither one of us said NXT UK. Although honestly, I think just logistically, we probably won't see anybody from NXT UK.
No, nobody from NXT UK I don't think is going to go over anytime soon. Only because they can't.
Right. There's just not the options.
It's not happening. I don't think this is going to happen, but I think it would be fun to hope that it would happen. SmackDown. What was it? SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
All right, I'll still do this. How about Rhea Ripley?
How about Rhea Ripley?
I
Rhea
think
Ripley's a big name.
Yeah, she is a big name. She hasn't been doing a lot in NXT recently. I think maybe it's because they're preparing a big Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai match sometime down the line. But honestly, why not just give her the call right now?
Raw.
Ready.
Raw. You say she's going over to Raw.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What Asuka needs right now, what she doesn't have, is good challengers.
Is a good opponent. Yeah.
Rhea Ripley, I mean, they already have Bianca Belair there, but they don't seem to be content with doing much with her for a while.
No, they don't.
Bring Rhea Ripley in.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I think Raw gets. So looking at the NXT roster, there's not a whole lot that they would pull up left.
Yeah, because I think they already pulled up quite a few names a while ago.
I think NXT keeps Seth Rollins, which we haven't heard about much, but I think I think Raw keeps Seth Rollins. I don't think they move him over to SmackDown just for the heck of it. I think they keep Seth.
Yeah.
Who do you think goes over to SmackDown?
Over to SmackDown. Let's see. Who haven't I said? Ricochet, I guess.
Okay.
Because I don't know, they kind of have him. The interesting thing is, for a while they had him, Apollo, Cedric originally was with them, and Mustafa. All of the guys that of the last 6 months or last 6 months to a year, Vince McMahon has just said, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we already have Cedric on, but I think one of those three is at least gonna switch brands. So I guess Ricochet. So I don't know what else.
All right. I think there are a couple different things that happen, but I think we see Billy Kay go over to SmackDown. Because they've already
the Iconics.
Because they've already split up the Iconics. Wait, no. Billy's the one with the round face. I think they send Peyton Royce over to SmackDown. The one that Vince McMahon actually likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they send Peyton Royce over to SmackDown. Because and here's going to be the theme for my next few picks. SmackDown's women's division is thoroughly dry. It has got, I'm looking at the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's got almost half as many women on it as Raw's. Almost half as many women on it as NXT's. They need somebody over on the SmackDown brand. They need women over on the SmackDown brand. So I think Peyton Royce goes over to SmackDown, and that's where she spreads her wings because Vince McMahon sees her as the thinner, blonder Iconic, and he starts playing with his new toy.
Got it. I think I think SmackDown is next for me. Well, no, it's Raw. It's Raw. It's Raw. It is Raw that is next for me.
Yes.
I think it's interesting how we haven't brought up this name yet, but I'm gonna pick Becky Lynch.
I mean,
I think at some point she's going to get drafted.
okay. I don't think so. I think Becky Lynch becomes a free agent because nobody knows when she's going to come back. She's at least going to be off for the next year. So her going over to either brand doesn't really matter because in 2021, if they do the draft again, she'll be up for grabs again. Like, she won't have made any impact whatsoever in the rest of 2020 because she can't, because she won't be able to, even once she has the kid, because she said she was pregnant. She was pregnant probably sometime just before WrestleMania, which means she'll probably have the kid sometime around the end of the year, the beginning of the year, plus 6 weeks at least for normal recovery. If you're not an athlete, just to get back to doing like an office job. Let's not talk about getting back in the ring. We probably won't see her for at least another year and a half.
Yeah. I get it. But I personally think at some point they know how big she is, and at some point they kind of have to mention. I think she's going to get drafted at some point. Yeah, they could easily ignore it, but yeah, you never know with WWE. You never know what they think.
True. I think Raw then again retains Buddy Murphy.
Makes a lot of sense. Still having
I think they retain Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
SmackDown. Who do you think SmackDown then gets?
SmackDown. Sasha Banks.
Think they keep Sasha?
I think they keep Sasha, and interestingly, they're gonna have Sasha Banks versus Bayley for the championship on the same night as the draft.
Okay.
They're gonna have that match on the same night, and I think this would be such a WWE move to be teasing that feud for a year and a half, to just have it end with one match on a SmackDown and then split them up.
That would be a WWE thing to do after they built that thing up for months.
I think Bayley is actually going to go to Raw in this draft after she loses the title on SmackDown.
That would be a very WWE thing for them to do. That would be very WWE thing for him to do. Let's see, that's SmackDown. I think SmackDown picks up, and hear me out, and wait for it. I think SmackDown picks up Jessamyn Duke. Hello?
I'm sorry. What was that?
I think SmackDown picks up Jessamyn Duke.
Okay, I'll hear you out.
Because I think SmackDown also picks
Marina Shafir. And you think they're finally going to do something with them?
Because I think SmackDown also picks Shayna Baszler.
You think they're going to form the Four Horsewomen?
Nope, because I don't think Ronda Rousey's coming back. But I think they're gonna play with the 3 that they still have on their contract.
Okay.
I don't think Ronda's coming back. I think Ronda's, the thing that made her quit UFC is also making her quit WWE. So I think whatever her attitude issues are with that, whatever her rejection or losing issues or not winning issues are with that, maybe she's still trying to be on that pregnation vacation. But whatever it is, I don't think we're seeing Ronda again, at least not for the rest of the year. I think SmackDown picks up Shayna Baszler, Jessamyn Duke, and Marina Shafir. And maybe finally does something with Shayna Baszler on the main roster on a consistent basis. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about. The SmackDown women's division is dry as a desert. They need some new life into that. They need some bodies there, period.
Okay. I think it's a good idea. There's only one caveat. She's the women's tag team champions with Nia Jax.
The women's tag team, championship isn't exclusive to any brand.
I mean, it's not, but I don't think they're going to have a tag team that's split between both Raw and Smack. I think they would bring them both up together as a team.
Well, they're already a odd couple team anyway. If SmackDown brings over Nia Jax, so be it. That's 4 people, and again, that evens out SmackDown a little bit more in terms of the women's division, in terms of having bodies. But they could also play with one tag member being on a different brand.
What if they have the 3 of them with Nia Jax and they pretend like that's the 4 horsewomen? Like that was always the 4 horsewomen?
Well, they could do it, or they could do something where Nia pretends to be the 4th horsewoman.
I think that
4th horsewoman, and all 3 of them fucking hate her.
Yeah, I think that could actually be a really good story, like a really funny one.
Although if Nia Jax continues any way that she did after they won the tag team championships, that post-match interview, that was awful. That was just bad. And it's funny, I hadn't seen that since I'd seen this guy on the SoCal Indies. And as far as I don't know if he still does this stupid stuff. This guy on the SoCal Indies had this really goofy face, this big guy who didn't understand subtlety. He was terrible, but he thought he was over, and I think Nia Jax thought that was funny or something, or they told her, I don't know what they told her, but that post-match interview was the pits.
It was so funny. But I don't think in the way they wanted it to.
So okay, fine. SmackDown then takes all 3 of those women and Nia Jax. So SmackDown then takes the 4 women over. So now I'm at a loss again. So Raw, who does Raw get?
See, I after doing this for a while, not listing it, I'm just getting confused because now I think that some of the picks that you have made are now suddenly the picks that I have made. So now I'm starting to get confused on who's actually on my brands or not. What am I drafting for Raw?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a useless pick out there. Let's get one that's just gonna make the numbers. Let's go Eric. Just Eric from Viking Raiders.
Is Ivar injured? Is Ivar the one that's injured?
Ivar got hurt, and he's gonna be out for a long time.
So Raw's just gonna keep Eric?
I think Raw is just gonna keep Eric. I don't think Ivar's gonna get drafted, and I think Eric isn't gonna do. He's not gonna do jack. They're not gonna have him do anything except maybe get squashed.
Okay. I think Raw gets. Okay, here's a pick. Although they've got a whole lot of big guys. I guess they're on both shows, I suppose. I think Raw gets. Here's a name you haven't heard from in a long time, and I've heard his name talked about recently, as in he might make a comeback now that his scandal has died down a bit and people have forgotten. They've forgotten all about him in general. But if WWE and if Raw is going to make something of this guy and not just have him sit out the rest of his contract, then Lars Sullivan may be going over to Raw.
Wow. I'm going to be honest. Lars Sullivan completely slipped my mind.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I forgot he was still around.
Right. Because he basically had the back-to-back controversies that stopped his career.
Yeah. It completely halted it.
Yeah. Like the first one, they got past. The first one, they're like, okay, fine, whatever. And then the second one happened, and they're like, all right, just take him off TV for a while. I mean,
Well,
the
it's been
draft
a little more than a while. It's been like a year and a half.
It's been some time. It's been quite some time. He's still employed, and if they bring him back technically or bring his name up in the middle of this draft,
I mean, what if he got furloughed?
he didn't get furloughed. His name wasn't on the list. As far as I remember, his name was not on the list.
How weird that isn't like one of the guys they decided to release.
Yeah, and I think their biggest issue with it was he didn't tell them more than it resurfaced.
That's what happened with Enzo Mori. That was like the biggest problem there was that he didn't tell them that was a thing.
Right. Although I think with Enzo it was a little bit more complicated. I think he did. I think he didn't know either at the time.
He didn't know, and also they kind of hated him.
Right.
So
he didn't know, and they already Yeah. That was a little bit different, slightly. But I think, and it's a good time to do it because it's buried in the middle of all the other things that can happen in the draft. So if they bring him back, people will think, oh yeah, Lars Sullivan. But then also, oh, here goes this guy, here goes that guy. It's in the middle of this forest of a bunch of other things that happen, so that you don't quite remember, about Lars Sullivan or why he left in the first place, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. All right. So I have I keep forgetting who is on what show of your predictions, of my predictions.
You have like the next 3 of SmackDown. So who do you think goes to SmackDown?
Really confusing. SmackDown is probably
or stays.
They're probably gonna keep. Oh no, I'm gonna do this. They are gonna keep. SmackDown's gonna keep John Morrison, and just John Morrison. No Miz.
Okay. Well, take John Morrison. Because I think he's on. You think he's on Raw right now, right? Or is he on SmackDown?
Him and Miz are together on SmackDown.
Okay.
And they have a pairing that can be so good together, doing such crap.
Well, it's been however many years since the original pairing. And also, John Morrison's return is one of the biggest disappointments, but also not unexpected because they've wasted talent that they've done that to before.
Yeah.
So, all right. Who else goes or stays on SmackDown? We'll do it this way. Who else goes or stays on SmackDown? Catches both up. 2 more.
Jeff will stay on SmackDown.
All right, makes sense.
Jeff Hardy. And
who else?
And Baron Corbin? I
Okay.
guess. Baron Corbin will stay? Yeah.
Yeah, because who cares? Because who really cares? I think Braun Strowman goes over to Raw.
Braun Strowman. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd take that for Raw too.
Because even though Braun Strowman has been on Raw for way too long, and was in the main event scene on Raw way too long, you gotta split him and the Fiend up. You gotta take them away from each other, and they aren't doing a good enough job of doing that on Smack while they're on the same show for whatever reason. You gotta stop that bleeding. You just have to. Who do you think goes to Raw? And then we'll do one more. Who do you think goes to SmackDown?
Ooh, I think. I guess we could just put Elias on a Raw. I mean, he's been gone for a little bit, but I think he's gonna come back sooner rather than later.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
I feel bad for Elias because he was so big and he was so popular just a couple years ago. But they've not only have they burned him out, but now he's not performing in front of any fans.
Right.
So his big gimmick does not work in any way. So he's kind of just a guy that can't really wrestle that well now.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, that's not a wild assertion. I think SmackDown takes Dolph Ziggler for literally no reason whatsoever. He doesn't. Dolph Ziggler brings very little to the table. I think they take Dolph Ziggler anyway. One more round. Who do you think Raw gets? Who do you think SmackDown gets?
Raw. I think Raw is gonna get. Let's see.
Or keeps.
Oh, I said this. I'm just gonna put these two picks together because I already kind of said them already. So I'm just gonna put them together. Bailey, because I think Bailey's gonna go to Raw, and Miz, because I think they're gonna split up Miz and Morrison.
Okay. I think Raw takes Heavy Machinery.
Oh, that's right. Because man, I forget that Otis still has the briefcase.
He does still have the briefcase, but here's what happens. I think Raw takes Heavy Machinery, and I guess technically Mandy's on Raw.
She got traded like 2 weeks before this.
Perfect. So I think they take Heavy Machinery, but I think they get out of the briefcase thing by doing this. For whatever stupid reason, because they still, I guess, are they still doing the stupid thing with the Miz going to court over the briefcase?
Yeah. They're
okay.
Still doing that.
I think they bring up some stupid non-stipulation that makes it so that Otis has to give up or cash before he goes, and so he cashes in, and then that's how the briefcase gets cashed in, and we don't ever have to hear about Otis with the super briefcase ever again. I think we finally wrap that stupid story up. He then goes over to Raw with Tucky and his girl for 3 hours. For more time of him showing up without his shirt doing the caterpillar.
I kind of knew in the back of my mind that Otis getting the briefcase was probably not going to end well, but I was just so happy in the moment.
Well, here's the problem,
because it was just something so unexpected that I just couldn't help but be happy.
Here's the problem. Conceivably, you can turn anybody into a main eventer. Conceivably. There are ways and steps you go through to get somebody into the main event picture, even if you don't intend on giving them the belt. There are ways you can make people believe, oh my God, Spike Dudley might actually beat Stone Cold Steve Austin on this particular night. There are ways you can do that. They have done nothing. They have done nothing to propel this man to the upper card since he got the briefcase.
Yes.
They have done absolutely nothing.
And not only that, I don't think this is the first Money in the Bank where I don't think a single person thinks he's going to win. Not a single person. Against Roman Reigns? Hell no.
People even thought Damien Mizdow had a shot depending on who he cashed it in with, and maybe because people were behind Damien Sandow more then, I think, than they are behind Otis now. So, and there are more of them. Like there was at least you thought like maybe under the right circumstances he might actually do it after a big match. Maybe he'll cash it in. You started believing that kind of thing. Mr. Kennedy, people thought Vince McMahon loved Mr. Kennedy and thought he was going to cash it in.
I could have believed it if Braun Strowman was still champ.
Who against Otis?
Yeah,
that Otis would cash in on Braun Strowman.
Yeah, I could have believed that if he was still champ.
Explain that.
Because I don't think they like booking Braun Strowman well at all. Because I think he had a horrible, horrible Universal Championship reign.
He did.
I think if anyone were to lose the briefcase, he would be the one.
It would have to be under extenuating circumstances, like the Fiend would have to get involved. But then you run the risk of, again, book yourself into a corner because now Otis is your champion. So they have done nothing to make you believe that this guy can be a viable, legitimate contender for a number one championship in anybody's company. WWE, AEW, Independence, Ring of Honor, nowhere. TNA, nowhere. I don't believe Otis would be a heavyweight champion. I don't believe Otis would be a singles champion anywhere. I don't believe him as anything more than maybe a hardcore 24/7 champion. Not Intercontinental, not US.
Wow.
You know, none of it. None of it. They have done nothing to make you believe in this guy, and now they paint himself into a corner. So now they got to paint themselves out of a corner, and they might just do it in the stupidest, fastest way possible by just obliterating the whole stupid lawsuit storyline and saying, okay, you got to compete, you got to cash it in now or lose it forever. Whatever they do.
On a tag team.
Even if it's for a tag team, sure. All right. So the big takeaways from all this? Who do you think will come out the best out of the roster? SmackDown or Raw? Because let's face it, NXT, if they do anything with NXT, is going to turn out worse.
I think by default it will be SmackDown, because I think the way that they are running things right now, that the way they're running things with Bruce Pritchard, he's overlooking both shows. I think he's actually just focused on SmackDown, and that Vince just rewrites Raw, right before Raw happens.
Right.
So I think by default, SmackDown will end up better at this moment.
Okay. I think that may be true as well. Raw, they don't know what they're doing with Raw. They threw the power in for Raw Underground. They don't really know what they're doing. There's a lot of like bigger guys, darker guys over on Raw. I think SmackDown. I think the women. Here's what honestly I think the biggest winner out of this draft might actually should technically be, if they do this right, the SmackDown Women's Division. Because if they do this right, they can bring some people over to that brand that works. They've got a couple injuries on there, including Ember Moon, who we still haven't heard from. I think if they do it right, they can develop this better, and probably the Women's SmackDown division might be best off. But we're probably going to see a switching of the champions, the main champions at least. And the women's division might be better off. And actually, Roman Reigns might be better off with this draft too, because he has newer people to work with, in my opinion.
I can see that. Yeah. I think I have an interesting one. Who do you think is most likely to be drafted and then traded to the other brand like 3 days after the draft?
And then trade it right back?
Yeah.
Ironically enough, Roman Reigns.
You think Roman Reigns? I think it's gonna be Bayley. I think they're gonna do the WWE thing where they have the match, Sasha wins, they split them up, but everybody's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then WWE's like, okay, we kind of got to fix this, and they just trade her back for like, I don't know, nickels and pennies.
It's quite possible. Ironically enough, I think it's Roman, only because he's the hottest thing on either show right now, technically. Like, you have the Hurt Business, they're doing good work, but I only tuned into the last couple pay-per-views because of Roman Reigns. I didn't care about it. I heard what they're doing for Roman. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll check this out again. Like, they took me from never wanting to watch another thing they did ever again because of all the stupid cinematic stuff and all the boring parts and all the lulls and all this other stuff into, okay, I'll watch now. And actually enjoying at least Clash of Champions. Payback was fine, but Clash of Champions, like, I actually enjoyed that pay-per-view. That was actually a good pay-per-view.
Well, because it's kind of like if John Cena turned heel, it's finally them pulling the trigger on something that people have been saying to do for years.
But also, he's very good at it.
Yeah. Who would have thought that the thing that people said he would be super good at for years, he'd actually be really good at?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Ironically enough. Yeah. So, all right. Those are my takeaways. Those are your takeaways. Kyle,
Yep.
It's been a pleasure as always. If do you want people to be able to find you? Where can they find you?
You can find me at my house. My address is I don't really have that much social media, really. I'm just gonna lurk under a rock for a little while. Maybe I'll pop up one day.
All right, look under a rock. Look under a rock.
Look
In
under
the
a rock,
meantime,
and maybe you'll find me.
right. In the meantime, the draft's going to happen in a couple of days. We're going to see how that goes down. Kyle, thank you for joining me. Party people, like, share, subscribe. Tell us down there in the comment section how wrong or right we are. All that other stuff. Patreon.com/Real469, all that other stuff. In the meantime, in between time, cheers.
I'll drink my invisible glass.
I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice place, with a nice smile on my nice face. Turn your back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.